trying to formulate, Alan, a good trivia question around the weather, and I couldn't quite get it done. I need a nice fact and figure, but anecdotally, so we were having a nice warm stretch, to start winter, and anecdotally, the warmest weather that people can remember here in Iowa was in the 1850s. They had 2 winters in a row where people were recalling how they were wearing bare feet on their way to Christmas Eve services, and not getting their feet wet to go into church. And then, of course, the next year they got pounded with one of the worst ones that we think of as in history, but we really didn't record weather very well back then. So no one really knows exactly how bad it was from the number of inches or how cold it got.
Well, I'm just 90 miles north of the fires in California.
Are you really?
And yeah, and it's everything that they said it would be when those people started building those houses in those dead end canyons.
Yeah.
And there's really no place for these people to go. And they know their way to their houses. They don't know any other roads. And the emergency vehicles, they don't know the roads either. GPS doesn't take you because you're in the hills and they're wooded hills and they are burning. When we flew in to Santa Barbara the other day, we could see the smoke and it was already out to Catalina Island, 20 miles.
Wow.
Up. And it looked like hell. I mean, you could see the flames and everything from 30,000 feet and 45 miles away. We could see it.
Wow.
Wow. That's pretty wild.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So.
Well, it's just now 12:32. We already have a great group with us. I see so many familiar names here popping up. John Gilbert, Chris Clayton, Berlene Wobiter. I could just read the whole list. Susan Aram. It's always exciting to see who joins us from week to week. So I am recording, and we're also live streaming to IFU's Facebook page. So you can find our chat with Alan today on IFU's Facebook page, but you can also find it later on IFU's YouTube page. Aaron, I am all set. If you want to go ahead and get us started with some announcements.
Well, great. Well, welcome, everyone. We are so grateful that you're joining us today, and we are very happy to have as our special guest columnist Alan Guebert. So welcome, Alan. It's great to have you here again.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm very happy to be back.
Well, I'm going to give just a couple of Farmers Union announcements before we get started today with our really exciting discussion. Just a couple of items. On January 23rd, the Iowa Food System Coalition has its Food and Farm Lobby Day taking place. Please learn all about it. There are all sorts of activities going on to prepare for the Iowa Food System Coalition Lobby Day. We also are going to be continuing our fundraising campaign. Our end of year fundraising campaign is tying up, and boy, we're making great progress to get to our goal, our 40,040 days campaign. So if you haven't had a chance to give to the Farmers Union, we are so grateful for all that you do for us to make our organization be the most effective voices we possibly can for family farm agriculture. Thank you for giving if you've already given. And if you haven't had a chance yet, it is not too late. So go ahead and catch the link in the chat in order to figure out how to participate. And we are really excited about getting very, very close to our goal. Next week on January 16th, our Lunch and Learn will be with our wonderful guest, Madeline Schultz from Iowa State University, and we'll be talking about Iowa Women in Agriculture and the outstanding program being done there. On February 18th, the Iowa Farmers Union will be hosting our own lobby day, taking place, our Food and Farm Lobby Day, on February 18th. So if you haven't had a chance to put that on your calendar, please do so. We are looking forward to that. A lot of work spreading the good Farmers Union word on progressive policies for family farming and sustainable agriculture and thriving rural communities. So join us in Des Moines and be watching your email inbox for more information about that. Last, I wanted to mention to you that the National Farmers Union Convention is going to be hosting its annual convention on March 9th through 11th in Oklahoma City. So if you have any inkling to head to Oklahoma City and join a great group of Iowans to set policy, to learn all about important issues facing family farmers, to elect Farmers Union leadership, join our group going to Oklahoma City for the National Farmers Union Convention, and let us know that you are interested in coming and joining our group of Iowans. But before we go any further today, let's jump into our discussion with agriculture journalist Alan Guebert. Alan's column, The Farm and Food File, appears in more than 60 newspapers around the United States and Canada. He and his daughter, Mary Grace Foxwell, have collaborated and co-wrote The Land of Milk and Uncle Honey, Memories from the Farm of My Youth. He was raised on a 720-acre, 100-cow Southern Illinois dairy farm. And we are always grateful to have a conversation with Alan Guebert. So thank you for being with us, Alan.
My pleasure. Like I said earlier, Aaron, I don't know where you want to start, but I look at January kind of as a shoulder season. We're not really well into 2025, the new year, and we have a lot of carryover items, news, and lack of action from 2024. So, and now we have a presidential inauguration coming up in less than 10 days, or about 10 days. We have a whole new Congress already seated. We have tons of nominees from the Trump administration being examined. And we have some of the deader ag markets that we've had in the last decade. And, you know, to show you how troubling we are where we are right now, given all of those things, you know, I did a column. It's coming out early next week. You guys will see it on tomorrow. And it's about a report, an analyzed report from CoBank. Now, the farm credit system, I just think this is shocking. The farm credit system has $448 billion of debt. That's half of all U.S. ag debt is owned by the farm credit system. And the farm credit system's biggest bank, biggest member bank, is CoBank. And CoBank has by itself about $151 billion worth of debt. So what CoBank says and does really moves the farm credit system. And in December, the CoBank issued a report. They do each and every year, but it's an outlook for 2025. And here are some of the headlines included in the chapter headings of that report. Quote, trade war could send the ag economy from bad to worse. That was a chapter on trade. Strong dollar, trade policy, and South American crops to hobble U.S. ag exports. Another chapter heading, biofuels production to slow as policy uncertainty looms. And then rural connectivity faces challenges in a shifting political landscape. There's nothing good about any of those. And to give you an idea, you know, we had the two largest exports in the U.S. ag last year were soybeans at 28 billion and corn at 19 billion. And there's probably not any crops more important to Iowa than those two crops. And if you're going to start facing, you know, not only global challenges in your marketplace from just say your competitors in South America, but you also have trouble with the strong dollar and biofuels production. Corn's headed for a big realignment. I'll try to be kind, a big realignment in 2025. And before anybody says, well, what's the price of corn going to be in October? I would just ask you to, you tell me how many acres of corn are going to be planted given where prices are today versus soybean prices today too. And I know soybeans cost considerably less per acre to grow, but they also generate considerably less net income. So my guess is farmers are going to do what farmers do, and they're going to plant more corn because of that's just what farmers do when you face in tougher times. But now keep in mind too that Congress through the U.S. deficit, the U.S. budget in December, they solved that problem by kicking it down the road 3 months. You have another budget fight coming in exactly 2 months. So good luck on that one. I mean, you've got a whole new political force operating within Washington, but you still have the same problems and you still have the same Congress. It didn't change that much. And in fact, if it changed anything, I note two things that changed. The majority in the House got narrower, and why Mike Johnson would want to be Speaker of the House, I just think that would be a terrible job. And you have a new leader in the Senate, John Thune, which is, your neighbor to the north. I think a lot of John Thune. I admire John Thune's politics and his ability to put people together. He is a genuine nice guy. I'll tell you a quick John Thune story. About 20 years ago, I was here in South Dakota, and I was speaking at the South Dakota State Fair, and the South Dakota Farmers Union president, I can't remember his name, I can see his face, and he said, "Come on over to our office in Huron and have barbecue and a beer that night." I thought, well, that'd be great for a really hot day. I said, "Save me some beer." So I showed up about 6 o'clock. There was one beer left and no barbecue. And then he said, "Would you address the crowd?" There were about 300 farmers there. I said, "Sure, yeah, okay." And I took the hide off John Thune. He was running against Tom Daschle, and I just slandered him to no end. And the crowd was cheering, and they were standing up, and they were loud. And I thought, wow, this is going really well. And then I finished, and thundering applause. And I turned around, a guy walked up to me, just a handsome, tall, skinny guy walked up to me and says, "Hi, I'm John Thune." That was a great speech. That's a pretty good sense of humor. I was really, really, from that day on, he won me over just by being an honest guy. So
Right.
if you're going to see success on any of these issues, my guess is it'll be in the Senate rather than the House. Keep in mind that President-elect Trump has taken 3 House members to join his cabinet. So there's going to be, I don't see how you get anything through the House at all. And that's just the budget. And they're talking about immigration reform. Did you see what the new president of Mexico said yesterday? Needled him right back and said we should call America Mexican America because you stole 30% of it from us. She's not taking this sitting down. Justin Trudeau, he's gone, and now the leader of Canada. And there's going to be a vacuum there. The next election for prime minister is not even prime minister, I should say, the leadership of those parties. It's not until October. Right. So the Liberals will name an interim, a lame duck. So all of those trade issues are just percolating around. And now the president-elect wants a 25% tariff on our 3 biggest trading partners. China at $35 billion a year. Mexico and Canada both at about $28 billion a year. What do you think is going to be the reaction there? Do you think they're going to sit still and take that? And given what they have to do in order to make money for their people, their leaders too. So, when you look at it, the ag export deficit in 2024 was $30 billion. That's big. You know what it's going to be for 2025? According to USDA, 30% larger, $42.5 billion. And that's without any tariffs thrown in. So, if you're looking for ag exports to bail out American agriculture, you better go in search of something else because we already pretty much have that in place. And we do not even know what Trump's tariff policy is or how it's going to affect. But we know it's going to affect him. And then you start looking at biofuels. 18% of all cars sold worldwide are EVs. 18%. Now, the U.S. sells about half that amount. About 9% of all new car sales in the United States are EVs. But it's growing very rapidly. And keep in mind, who is Trump's number 1 go-to advisor now, seemingly? The guy who makes EVs, Elon Musk. So he's going to have a great influence on biofuels policy and alternative energy policy. He already is. He's already saying things that, people question, but nobody really questions them out loud. So that's kind of where we sit. So you just look at those 3 or 4 issues, and then keep in mind, everybody knows what's not been done yet, and that's the Farm Bill. Didn't get done in 2023, not done in 2024. And they promised to get it done in 2025. I would not be taking that to the bank because people forget. Maybe they don't. It was hidden too well from them that they never saw it. But while the House Ag Committee passed a bipartisan farm bill in 2024, and that was with just 3 Democratic votes. So it was barely bipartisan. 3 out of 21 Democratic members voted for it. They kind of had to.
Mhm.
The chairman of the House Ag Committee, Glenn Thompson, never took it to the full House.
Right.
It was never voted on in the full House. And there's a reason for that. It would not have passed. But they used it then as a cudgel to kind of beat up the Senate Ag Committee, which reply was always, well, show us a finished bill. Give us a bill that's passed the House and we'll handle it in regular order. That problem does not get any easier for Glenn Thompson this year. He's not going to have that much of a majority in that committee. He might have 4 or 5 votes, but the majority is immaterial. What he's going to have are House Freedom Caucus members, be they either on the committee or in the House, that will stop that bill cold in its tracks, because they want, tens and tens of billions of dollars, if not $100 billion of cuts of food stamps. Every farmer, worth his pocket pliers knows that there is no way to pass a farm bill in the House without urban votes. Just no way. And those are Democrats. The Democrats will vote for that bill. They vote. Every major law that's been passed in the last 3 years has been passed with Democratic votes. So you're going to have to come to the Democrats and put a bill safely, a safe bill, when that includes food stamps, in it without cuts. What do you think the odds of that passing the House will be? And this is way down the list of work to do. This is federal budget. This is Trump's tax cuts that he wants, incidentally. $5 trillion additional debt. And if the Trump tax bill doesn't get passed or extended, so like 60% of all Americans' tax rates go up. And it isn't the really rich that go up. These are the taxes from $108,000 in income down. Those taxes go up 2, 3, 4% per bracket. And farmers have a big interest in this too, because the Trump tax cuts of 2018, I think they were, they doubled the inheritance exemption for small business and married couples. They went from $7 million to $15 million an individual, and it went from something like 13.8 million per couple to like 30, 20, 26, 27. I don't remember the exact numbers, but those expire when the Trump tax bills expires. So I think farmers are going to be really busy trying to lobby, if nothing else, for that exemption to remain. So
Sure.
Will it pass? Man, flip a coin. This is a tough environment to go through, and with your economic issues, your political issues, your rural issues. Boy, your agriculture is way down on the list to get things done, and yet it's vital to get these things done. And that's just in Congress. Then you start looking around, and there's so many other issues that need to be handled in the coming year. I don't know where I would begin if I was the incoming Secretary of Agriculture. And frankly, I don't know anything about her abilities to address these issues. You say, well, she's going to surround herself with capable people. I don't have any doubt about that. Assistants or associate people in the USDA South Building. Great. Who do you think's calling the shots? Do you think she's calling the shots?
Yeah.
And I hesitate to remind people that Trump claimed himself to be a friend of biofuels. Somebody in Iowa tell me how that's worked out in Iowa. The
That's right.
The personal visits he made, and all the talk he made when he's in Council Bluffs and other things. None of that happened. Talk is cheap. It's difficult to get stuff done. And I have not witnessed any ability of this administration, this coming administration, to get a lot done in ag. And, as I noted when you and I were talking beforehand, the second Donald Trump takes the oath of office, he's a lame duck.
Right.
Who do you want to work with? He's not going to be around in 4 years. He can't. Oh, in the House, yeah, he can affect your primary race in 2 years. But one of the things that has changed in the Freedom Caucus attitude towards Donald Trump is they're not scared of that. They'll just flat out say, you've already tried that and you didn't work. So,
yeah.
And this is what we know. There's 38 Freedom Caucus members in the House, and they're pretty hard right Republicans. Of them, 16 to 19 are very hard right. And of those 16 to 19, 9 are immovable Republicans.
Right.
They vote no when the first word they say every morning is no when they get out of bed. And the last thing they say to anyone who's listening to them at night is no. So I have no clue how you put a coalition together. And if you do, think of what those components will have to be in any bill that goes through there. And then you have Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy, who's saying we're going to cut $2 trillion out of a $4 trillion budget. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions that's come in is asking about trade and tariffs. And last time around, Donald Trump was fairly transactional and said that he can offset that with large payments and keep supporting farm country. The question is that likely to happen again if Donald Trump isn't up for re-election, doesn't have to come back to primary voters or general election voters at all?
What a couple of things we do know about that idea, that it's done in the past. He did it in the past. Trump administration's direct farm payments to agriculture in 4 years was $79 billion. $79 billion. So he has no compunction of spending taxpayer money on farm programs. So you don't have to worry about that side of it. The other thing that he instituted that was very original was he took the CCC, $30 billion per year, and entitlement money. I don't mean entitlement, but it's all part of the budget. It's there every year. You don't have to negotiate it. It's there. And he took it to pay for this tariff program. He was very overt about that, very original. And then Tom Vilsack did the same thing for his greening program. So that precedent is not only set, that precedent is basically part of the USDA budget now. So will he do it if he has to? Oh, yeah, he'll do it in a minute. But will it make sense? I mean, will he pay, like last time, was it so many cents, 18 or 20 cents per bushel for corn in that? I don't know. But I don't see anybody who would argue in agriculture who would argue against that idea.
Sure. Say, we just recently saw an exit interview from one of our great Iowa journalists, Chris Clayton, who might be joining us today with the secretary. And I was wondering if you had any reaction to his comments, and especially as it relates to the Farm Bill debate that we've been talking about.
I don't think I'd be very kind, so I probably ought to keep my words to a minimum. I can tell you when I met Tom Vilsack, it was 1990, and I was actually invited over by Chris Peterson to the Iowa Farmers Union annual luncheon. They had a luncheon back then, and I remember getting out of my warm bed some icy January, driving 5.5 hours to Des Moines, stopping at a rest stop to put my suit on so I looked presentable. And I sat down at the meeting, and across the table was a young guy with an older guy. And the guy reached across the table and he said, "Hi, I'm Tom Vilsack, and I'm running for governor." I said, "Well, nice to meet you." And I kind of knew of his background in that. And then Chris introduced him and he did a little speech. And he talked about his state Senate days, coming to Iowa, his adoption and all that. It was very all warm. And in the meantime, I had his campaign literature. The younger guy across the table who was with him was his aide, and he slipped me some campaign literature. And I looked at it and I said to the guy, I said, I don't know. Is Vilsack a Republican or a Democrat? He said, "Well, why do you ask?" I said, "Well, they didn't say on his campaign literature he was a Democrat." He said he's a Democrat. And I said, "No, he's a chicken."
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to declare what party he was in, talking to the Iowa Farmers Union. And I said, "You tell your boss he's a chicken." He said, "I can't tell him that." So I'll tell him that. And with that, the guy got up and went over to Vilsack and they left. So that was my start. And I'm on the record as calling Vilsack a bank clerk from his first time, because he really just presided over agriculture and its money. I know people are very proud of some of the innovations that he had as far as the greening program and all of that. And I'm not, I think those are all great. Those are all wonderful. They should have happened during his first term, but because we're way down the road. I mean, there is just no way we are going to make any of the deadlines that are suggested we need to make. You know, in order for any of these programs to work, we have to go back to the energy usage that we had in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about that. Now a lot of us are old enough to remember 1990, and we remember it. It wasn't so bad, right? Yeah, but there was no internet. There was no Facebook. There was no, any of this Zoom. There was none of this stuff. There's no Bitcoin. There was no, enormous EVs. There's none of that. So we have to get rid of all of that infrastructure, all of that usage. So are we ever going to do that? No. No. So this is you're fighting a brush fire when really the world's on fire. So we have to do that. No, I wish Tom Vilsack happy trails. You think he's coming back to Iowa?
I don't know. We've gotten some word that he is. There's some Iowa institutions that maybe he may be a part of in the future, but we haven't seen that officially yet, of course, because he's still in office. So we'll see when January, at the end of January.
Let's just be clear, though. He hasn't been in Iowa for 16 years. And those 16 years, Iowa has really changed.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that Tom Vilsack's heart's in the right place. His record is one of great public service, of real care and humanity. He really cares. There's a lot of people in Iowa that fit that description right now that can't get traction.
Right.
And why would I don't know how old he is. I know he's a few years older than me, but why would you come and end your career there? Why would, bang, you can sit in your office anywhere in the world and bang your head against the wall. Yeah, Iowa's, it's so changed. I don't think Tom Vilsack could bring a crowd together anymore. And that's the real sad part of Iowa's politics. I'm not saying it's any different. I now live in Wisconsin. Oh, brother, let me tell you, I live in Madison just to be, have this big quilt of liberalism surrounding me that I just don't go crazy.
Sure. So, one of, just to tie up our discussion, we'll have to move on here in a minute. Our time is always too short with you, Alan. But between the restrictions on Farm Bill debate and Farm Bill economics, Farm Bill accounting, actually, from the congressional rules dealing with Farm Bill accounting, there are some to suggest that Farm Bill is just not the tool in order to provide any real change to agriculture. And even some of Secretary Vilsack's closing comments might relate to that we need to look beyond the Farm Bill as a tool to make real change in agriculture. Did that happen years ago, or is that just happening now?
No, it's not new, but I was so hopeful when I read that, because it does bring up the topic that absolutely doesn't need to be part of the coming debate, this Farm Bill debate. It shouldn't be a farm bill. It should be a farm and food bill. And it should be for every, pick a number, for every dollar you give out in farm program benefits to say industrial agriculture, ethanol, the greening, even all of that, crop insurance, equip, give me a dime of it. Just give me 10 cents, 15 cents of it, and let's go to the food portion. So that we can have we can build a food economy back in areas like Iowa and Illinois, where there's desperate want to do it. I mean, this is the growth area in agriculture, and we just gloss over it by saying, well, it's not farming. What? It used to be. That's all.
Yeah.
It used to be. I mean, I still eat 3 times a day, if not more. We all do. So we can do this, but you can't do it with a closed mind.
Right. Well, very good. Well, our time has really gone by really fast, but Alan, please go ahead.
I thought you were going to ask me a question about the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Actually, we've gotten a lot, and that's what I wanted to catch up with you before we close out. Lots of questions about the Illinois Farm Bureau and controversy with the American Farm Bureau Association. Illinois Farm Bureau from your many years in Illinois, and people are curious to hear what your thoughts are about this.
Well, there are many, but I'll keep them brief. If people will know
Sure.
that my brother, Richard, my eldest brother, served as Illinois Farm Bureau Vice President for 10 years. And then after that, 10 more years as president. And he's just been out of office because in the Illinois Farm Bureau, you can be president for 10 years and there's no term limits, but try to run for another term after 10 years and you will be defeated. But in any event, he had no role in what happened. But I've been watching these issues for quite a while. What happened literally was the Illinois Farm Bureau stopped charging dues to certain insurance buyers because they had no connection with the farm. And Illinois wanted those customers, be they're city dwellers, you know what they are. Illinois Farm Bureau has 800,000 members, only 75,000 are farmers. So it didn't want to charge those other, 700,000 plus members $20 a year membership fee because most of them didn't want to be members of Illinois Farm Bureau because of the politics, the reactionary politics. So they gave those customers a pass. American Farm Bureau Federation said, whoa, 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 whoa. 5 of those $20 is ours that you pay to the American Farm Bureau Federation as dues. And we want our money.
Right. Because
Iowa Farm Bureau, Illinois Farm Bureau, by themselves could buy and sell the American Farm Bureau Federation. Their entire budget, the American Farm Bureau Federation's entire budget is under $40 million. So if you take away, say, $3 million of Illinois due money floating upstream to them, that gets their attention. So American Farm Bureau said, we're going to kick you out of the Federation. And the Illinois Farm Bureau said, go right ahead, but we're not part of your federation. Illinois Farm Bureau is owned by an umbrella called the Illinois Agricultural Association. So legally, they're an association, and they're voluntarily joined the federation. So they sue American Farm Bureau Federation. AFBF says, we're throwing you out. And Illinois Farm Bureau said, go ahead. We keep our money then. See ya. And that's when old Zippy Duval, the president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, went to Iowa and said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. We're not going to throw out the Illinois Farm Bureau until 30 days after this lawsuit's been decided. The truth of the matter is that ain't going to happen. Illinois Farm Bureau is going to win that lawsuit. And so the American Farm Bureau Federation is going to crawl back to the Midwest and say, can you guys play nicely? And if they don't, those insurance-based farm groups like the Farm Bureau will leave the American Farm Bureau Federation because money is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about politics, our beliefs, our tenets of that we share together. No, we're talking about money. And money in the Farm Bureau, that's a sacred subject. That's a religion. So my guess is, if you look at where the last Farm Bureau presidents have come from, Zippy's from Alabama, and before that there was Bob, what's his name, from Texas. There's a pattern here, and it's all Southern representation. And that pattern means that the Southern states get an overrepresentation by the American Farm Bureau Federation. There's only 12,000 cotton growers in all of American agriculture, and they get nearly as much money as all the wheat growers. They get a fabulous amount of money because the Farm Bureau is Southern based. And if Farm Bureau cracks up, it's going to be a regional farm group based in, pick your point, make it Montgomery, Alabama, where the old Confederacy was. I don't care. But it's going to be a Southern group. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying there's some people at American Farm Bureau Federation going to need knee pads for the crawling that they're going to have to do to get back these state groups that are far wealthier and far more effective with their delegations than the American Farm Bureau Federation. Take a note of the turnover of the American Farm Bureau Federation staff just in the last year, and that'll tell you what's going on.
Okay.
Oh, I feel so much better. I feel so much better.
Well, so you laid out a couple of things that you're looking for. You're watching most closely in 2025. You told us a little bit about what your next column is going to be. We're looking forward to that. And anything in particular that you're working on in the coming weeks that we should keep our eye open for?
Well, I don't want to tip off all the good journalists who are listening in, but I would add one thing on a personal point of privilege. February 4th, one of Iowa Farmers Union's good friends, my good friend, longtime good friend, Fred Kirschman, turns 90 years old.
Yeah.
Freddie is in hospice care there near Ames. He's not well, very cogent, and he's I don't know how long he's going to last, but his passing, I don't want to make it sound like it's anything more. His predictable passing isn't what Freddie would want you to remember. He'd want you to remember his life and everything that man has done, and how he put together coalitions, how he just used facts and theology. Freddie's PhD is in theology. It's not in agriculture. He doesn't have a degree in agriculture, but he's this ordained minister of agriculture. Yeah. And read anything he's written. Do it, pay him that little tribute, that little homage, because Freddie's an important guy. And 100 years from now, 500 years from now, Freddie Kirschman's going to be read.
Yep. Yep. Well, that's
Thank
a
you
great
very much
note for us to end on. Thank you so much, Alan. And thank you everyone for joining us. This is the Iowa Farmers Union Lunch and Learn series. We are so grateful for the opportunity to have these conversations, to talk about family farming, sustainable agriculture, and thriving rural communities. And we know that we can only make a difference by working together. So if you haven't had a chance to join the Farmers Union yet, please do so today. If you haven't had a chance to contribute to our end of year fundraising campaign, please do so. Your work and your effort to bring this organization together helps us advance those causes that are so important to us all. So thank you so much. And Alan, again, thank you for being with us. Thank you, Christina, for bringing us all together. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone next week at our Lunch and Learn, where we will be speaking with Madeline Schultz from Iowa State University about Iowa women in agriculture. Thanks again, Alan.
My pleasure. See you. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Christina.
everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.